Okay, first up is Lindsay. I think it looks pretty good. I think there's something a little funny on the bounce, and I'm not quite figuring out what it is, so let's take a look at the Maya file. Okay, here I am in the Maya file, and I think it stays down here for too long. It stays down here for 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of several frames, so let's take a look at the ball rig, and I'm just going to show the curves. So, assuming you're animating with this, yeah, I'm not sure why. It's staying down there for so many frames. There was a thing where you could have it stay down for a couple frames. Let's take a look at the graph editor. That might be a little more obvious. Okay. So let's just look at the Y translate, and maybe if these were just, so this is at frame 7 and this is at frame 10, so maybe if this was at 8 and this is, I'm just looking up here, 32, 30, so maybe if this was just 31. I mean, there was that thing where you could have it stay down there for 2 frames, but I don't think you can have it for more than that. Oh, and this is kind of a weird here, but you're right, 50 and 49. Well, that one might be okay. Let's see if that's any better. I guess the other thing that's a little strange is that it bounces higher on the last bounce than the one before it, and I guess what I would expect is that, I mean, unless you're kind of saying it has a life of its own and it's able to like propel itself up into that glass or whatever, but what I would more expect would be something more like this, where if we go into the graph editor, where it's like higher, lower, lower, lower. So I would take this, and this, whoops, and W for move, shift middle mouse drag and move these up so that each one gets a little lower. And let's take a look at that. I'll just hide these again. And I might go even further with it. And then there's still something about the movement. Yeah, I think it's this shape here. I think we need to, first of all, I don't know why this keyframe's there, but you make sure that these tangents are all broken, and that you've got, it's fastest right before and after the bounce. So and also I think maybe I would bring those in a little bit. That's maybe, oops, it's maybe too much scaling on that. Those are looking like nicer humps to me now. So let's look at this again. That looks better to me. Okay. Anyways, just some thoughts. I mean, you know, there's aesthetic choices in there, but I'm always trying to have some more basis in physics, and unless it's, like I said, propelling itself up on the last one, like it has its own life or locomotion, then I would think each one would be less high. But overall, it's good work. Okay, this is Ekaterina. I think this is good. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but I think you got everything working right. The only thing I might say is that first squash, I might tone it down a little bit. We can take a look at the Maya file. Okay, here we are in the Maya file, and I guess that's not that much, but it just seems like maybe a lot of squash for the speed that, the amount it decelerates. So maybe you can go a little more subtle with it. Well, it might be better. And you have the 2 contact frames in there, so that's good. Yeah, I think this is good. I think it's working well. Okay, this is Elena. I think, again, similar to the last one, I think there's too much squash for the kind of the amount is decelerating. Like if it was falling from a much higher height, I think it would support that amount of squash, but this looks like feels like a little bit of a very abrupt change. And also I think at the end here, I would either just end it earlier or make sure it continues its forward momentum rather than it's just having it spin in place at the end there. So let's take a look. Okay, so yeah, I think just not so much squash, just not so extreme there. Oops. So definitely some squash, just not as much. See how if you like that any better. Oops. I think the other thing is there's something with the stretching that seems a little out of sync. So if this is at the top of the curve here, I would say it should be 0 there. Oh, that isn't the top, this is the top. Maybe 0 here. And this maybe both these would be 0 back here. Maybe get rid of this one, right mouse click, delete. Make sure that's straight also. And then here, if we look at the forward momentum of this, this curve here, it should just continue in that direction. Maybe, not slow down quite so much, and then make sure it, well, goes at least to the end that the other controls are doing, which I think that you have the spin going. I think the thing is you have the spin going longer, which is what is that, this one? No. So move. This one. Yeah, see, everything else ends at 52 and this ends at 60. So, you know, simple solution, just end the whole thing at 52. Unless you want to animate everything beyond there. Yeah, there's something about that Y curve. I want to take a look at that. Whoops. I have the wrong thing selected. Looks alright. I don't know. Yeah, that looks fine. Oh, I don't know what I'm seeing. I think that this is not a big deal, but the idea is that the ball placement is where you put it, just to get it at its starting point. And then I think the idea is to use the ball move control for the motion. You got it to work. It's not a big deal, but that's the idea of this rig. Okay. This is Andrea. Yeah, I like that you've done the Pokeball thing. I thought that was clever. And then, yeah, again, it just looks a little too snappy to me on those bounces, but I think it's pretty good. I might just maybe, you know, just like the other one, maybe tone down the squash a little bit. See if you like that any better, but I think it's alright. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good work. This is Vincent. There's definitely something funny going on with this. See how it's like, so it squashes here, and then it's like, why is it stretched out this way here? It shouldn't be. And there's something, yeah, weird and wobbly about it. So let's take a look at the Maya file. Okay, we're in Vincent's Maya file. Okay, let's just check a few things. So, to rotate, here's the, start with the move control. Just take a look at the graph editor. Start with that translate X. I guess that looks alright. So I think it's probably going to be mostly that squash thing that's the problem. Although, if you look at it, suddenly kind of changes speed between this segment and that segment. So we might want to, you know, adjust that a little bit. I have snapping turned on. I don't want that. Okay. That's, I think, a little bit more even, and then maybe again here. But I think, yeah, definitely all the weirdness I think is coming from this one. So you've got it angled there, and then it straightens out, and then suddenly it's pretty extreme here, and then it comes back to the middle there, except this isn't zeroed out. I think that's just too extreme as part of the problem. And then, yeah, here's, you're missing a keyframe here because it's squashing before it that, so this should be actually more stretched like this, and then it should squash some more like that. Well, actually, let me see, what did you have here? Yeah, well, this can be the sort of stretch frame here, And that can be the squash frame. And then come back to straight there, which it looks like you've got for the most part. And then again, you know, a little stretched here and squashed, good. A little oh yeah, and this is a little weird that it suddenly does that, so maybe, you know, just over a few frames it can change. See if that looks any better. A little better. Still seems to be too much here. Yeah, and then again here. So not so much angle on that because it's looking funny. I think that's better. And then we can compare that again to the this. Yeah, I think that resolves some stuff. Maybe the bounces are just generally a little bit low for the amount of squash and stretch we're getting. So you could just make, actually I'll go ahead and do it. We could just make the bounces taller and see if we like it better. Like that. Let's that Y translate and just take these guys and pull them up. See if that looks any better. That's too much. That's wrong. Okay. Anyway, yeah, sometimes you gotta try stuff. So somewhere in between, probably. Oops. Well, could still probably use some tweaking, but yeah, it's alright. Okay, this is Sharon. Probably would have left the wireframe off for this, for the play last. And the other thing is I think, just again, probably just too much squash for the height of these bounces, especially on that first one. Let's take a look at the Maya file. Okay, here's Sharon's Maya file. Let's just more from the side. So, just see if we like it any better if we tone down that this first squash here. Oh, it's also, oh, I guess that's alright. Sort of, that movement's a little weird. Wondering what's going on with the X translate there. No, it's, I guess that's what we expect. I guess there's just sort of a change in acceleration. You kind of want this to be more, you know, like a consistent line there. And there is some funny stuff here, like this guy should be more like that. I think actually that was the problem, is that these tangents aren't right. After you add that extra contact frame, you have to fix these. And I think maybe you didn't do that. Maybe this is a little too much, too scaled out. Okay, let's see if we like that any better. So it's funny because I kind of like that last bounce, that most subtle one, the best. So you could try toning down the squash even more. There's something where it looks like it's kind of hovering there for some reason. I think the length of this bounce is too long in time. I think we might want to, well, we need to get all this stuff visible. Wow, see, that's messing up. But these, yeah, these have to be, I do have to move these together if I'm going to move them. Just deselecting those, making this bounce shorter in time, and then this one shorter in time, and then maybe moving these down to get a more consistent forward momentum. And so that just that the last couple last less time. And why did those come off the ball? That's so weird. Something went berserk when I did that. I don't know what I did wrong. Alright. Oh, I might be overthinking it. Oh, I know what went wrong. Is that I can't just pick the one. If I'm going to change the timing, I have to make sure I've got let's turn everything off but curves. I have to make sure I've got all of these selected. I can't just and really the other way to do that, like if I think it's kind of hanging too much here, maybe on either side of this thing, is I could do the remove in between thing, which is here. So see, it shifts everything else back, and then you can do G to do that again, and then G. Let's see if we like that better. That's probably a better way to do it. Oops. And then adjust the that acceleration, not that one, the ball move, and just make this more look like a consistent move forward. I think I like it better with that bounce shorter. Maybe this, this bounce could be shorter too if we want. Just make sure all those are selected. So if I want this bounce to be shorter again, I could keys, remove in between, and then do it again here. I'll just hit G to repeat that last function. And again, I should probably take a look and make sure that this looks, well, that still looks pretty straight. So that looks a little better to me. Yeah, when I look at it now, that first, so those squashes just look way too big to me. When I compare it to what we've got here. Okay. This is Yao Nan. Something happened there. Alright, so there's some funniness going on. It almost looks like doesn't look like, the shape looks a little distorted here. I'm wondering what the deal is with that. And I think there's an issue with the forward momentum. So let's take a look at, so this is Yao Nan's Maya file. Yeah, there's some oddness here. Okay, so let's check the forward momentum of this thing. Oh, you didn't put it on there. Did you put it on this thing? You put it on that? Yeah, the idea is that's for the placing it initially, and this is for animating the movement, but it's not that big of a deal. Oh yeah, I can tell the shape of these curves doesn't look right, and I can tell that doesn't look right. So let's start with this one, and I'm just going to take out all these ones in the middle and then just adjust this like so to get it pretty straight, but just with maybe a little bit of slowing down at the end. And then let's look at the Y here and make sure that these are, I guess these aren't too bad. Yeah, something went a little wacky with that. It's gone a little crazy. So you didn't do the extra contact frame, which can help a little bit. Yeah, there's some weirdness there. Let's take a look at what these guys are doing. It's a little hard to tell from this. Yeah, this thing, I actually would just see what happens if we take the animation off of that bottom one. I'm just going to delete all these keyframes off that bottom one. I think that's already better. And then again, I think I might tone down the squash a little bit, just because of it's the amount it's decelerating. It doesn't seem like it justifies quite so much squash, and it kind of pops, you know, like in a not good way. Yeah, and then the other thing, and again, some of these are stylistic choices, but it does seem to kind of hang a little bit. So I might, yeah, look at the, I would just not have those quite so scaled. Maybe a lot more like that. Oops. That looks a little better to me. Let's compare that with this. Well, at least we got, unless you wanted that weird wobbliness, but it just looks strange to me. A little distracting, so. Yeah, it seems to be a little better. Okay, this is Ariana. Yeah, it's a little distracting with the controls, so let's just take a look at the Maya file. So you mentioned, you know, rendering without the controls, so I would just, you know, just do show curves, and that'll hide those for you. Yeah, I think you've gone too extreme with some of the stuff, so let's take a look at this. And yeah, I think it's just a question of sort of toning this stuff down. It's not that you've kind of done it wrong, really. It's just, I think it's too extreme, especially for the kind of amount of change that you've got. You know, the amount of change of acceleration doesn't really justify quite so much. Might delete this one. Go a little more, I guess. And again, that seems a little extreme. And we can delete this one. That looks alright. Delete this one again. Just make sure this is a little stretched that way. Okay, let's see if we like that any better. Still seems to pop a little bit to me. Let's whoops. Let's check a couple other things on the. Did you put it on here? Oh, it looks like you did. Ah, that's a little. I think what's might be confusing is you have it both on keyframes both on here and on here, and they can kind of fight each other if you have both. And then what's on here? Okay, there's nothing really on there. Okay, so it doesn't matter that much. But the idea is for this one to place it and the other one to... So let's take a look at the graph editor again. And yeah, you've got that. That's fine. I think you could work on the shape of this Y curve a little bit more. Get rid of this keyframe and maybe scale that out a bit. But I guess it's not too bad. It looks a little maybe pointy at the top. Maybe you can, what is it, free tangent weight? Yeah. A little rounder at the top, maybe. They look a little pointy at the top to me. Yeah, a little better. Okay. Okay, this is Natalie, and something's gone really wrong with this one. Let's take a look at the My file. Okay, I'm in Natalie's My file, and the ball should not be moving off of that. And I can see the problem right here is that you've put the keyframes on the ball rather than putting the keyframes on the control. So we might be able to be lucky and cut them off of the ball, and then I just double clicked on the timeline to select them all and then right mouse click and hit cut, and then I'll go to this and let's see if this works. If I paste it, is that gonna work? Maybe. Oh yeah. Okay, so at least we've got the controls moving with the ball now, but they're moving in a really crazy way. Went really wrong. Was it like that? Let me just reopen it and see if that's what I was doing before. Yeah, it was doing some pretty wacky stuff here. So, alright, so let's grab that. Double click, right mouse click, cut, grab the proper control, right mouse click, paste. Okay, so we've got it on the controls now. And yeah, and let's start, we can clean this up. Honestly, you might even just want to redo it because this looks like a big old mess here. Wow, what are all those keyframes doing on there? That looks nuts. So I'm going to just delete all those and just adjust this like so and make it pretty straight. You can have it slow down a little bit at the end. Let's see where we are now. There's still a lot of really weird things happening with this one. Honestly, this is, I would redo this because this is... Oh, the other thing is you've put your rotate on the move thing, I think. Is that what's going on? Oh. And it's rotated all crazy. You know, I would just, first of all, you usually got to take, I would just get rid of all these keyframes on the rotate, because first of all, there shouldn't be any rotate on the move control anyways. The rotate goes on the rotate control, which is, wasn't that red one? Yeah, the ball rotate control. So I think you need to kind of review the video and do this again, because you're not using the right controls with stuff, and it's making everything go really berserk for you. You know, it's starting to look a little better. And then if you want, you know, some rotation on it, you know, you could just do, I'll do Shift-D at the beginning, and then, you know, like, let's say a minus 360 at the end. And then you could have just, you know, some subtle rotation on there. But now these things are really popping, the way you've animated these. There's these extra little pops in here. I guess you just need to get rid of this and that. Alright, well, it's starting to look a little better. But I still think you might, just to learn it better, you might want to just start, rather than trying to just clean up what you have, you might just want to do it over again and make sure you did it right from the start, because there was a lot of pretty significant mistakes in there. Okay, this is Shane. Oh, it's looking really good. I'll just open a Maya just to see it from another angle. Okay, here's the Maya file. It's that same view, but I'm just curious to see what it looks like from the side. I think it looks good. There's just one moment where it seems to have maybe some, maybe it's just the angle. I don't know if it's the acceleration or the angle. I think it's the angle is maybe like too different coming in than it is going out. Let's try to adjust that. See it there and see it there. I don't know. Maybe it is alright. Whoops. Yeah, I think there is some forward momentum stuff we might want to look at. Oh, you put it on the other thing. Yeah, the idea is this is to place it at the beginning, and then the other thing, the blue one, is for the forward movement. Yeah, I think I'm not really liking this motion curve. So you have that acceleration at the beginning and deceleration at the end, which I think you'd probably be better off. Oh, and you didn't have the extra holding frames at the beginning and end, but actually, I don't know, it seemed to work pretty nicely anyway. So the idea is this is mostly straight, but then maybe it can slow down a little bit at the end. And you can, I don't know, maybe for this one you want it to slow down more at the end. You could experiment with that. Just flatten this out a little bit more. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, well, good work on that.